I lived in a mid-rise apartment complex for about 3 years while finishing up my graduate degree. It wasn't fancy. Old carpets, creaky elevators, weird smells in the hallway, but the rent was manageable and it was in a decent part of town. Just a block from a bus stop and walking distance to a decent sandwich shop, which was enough for me. The building was shaped like a square with a courtyard in the center, and I was on the second floor, right above the laundry room. Not the quietest spot, but I got used to the thud of machines spinning at all hours. My unit faced the courtyard, so my windows looked out at other windows, a setup that made it hard to avoid your neighbors. You'd see them smoking on their balconies, arguing with their partners, watching TV late at night. Eventually, you start learning their routines without meaning to. There was this guy in apartment 3B, directly across from mine, one floor up. I never knew his name, but I used to call him Sweatpants Guy in my head because that's all he ever wore. Always the same gray ones, even in summer. He was maybe in his early 30s. Pale, skinny, patchy facial hair. I'd see him out on his balcony a lot, smoking, drinking orange Gatorade, sometimes just standing there for long stretches like he was waiting for something. He never waved, never smiled, just watched. I didn't think much of it at first. Some people are just awkward, you know. Not everyone wants to be social. I've been guilty of that too, slipping past neighbors in the hall with my headphones in, avoiding small talk. No big deal. But one night, things shifted. It was about 9:30. I was getting ready for bed, brushing my teeth with the bathroom door open so I could still hear the dumb reality show playing in the background. I walked into the living room to turn the TV off and happened to glance out the window. There he was, Sweatpants Guy, standing at the edge of his balcony, completely still, staring directly into my window. Now that wasn't unusual in itself. Our windows faced each other and sometimes people just, glance around, but this wasn't that. His body was angled toward me, arms limp at his sides. No cigarette, no drink, no movement. Just watching. I froze in place. Toothbrush still in my mouth. After a few seconds, I stepped to the side, out of view, and peeked around the curtain again. He was still there, still staring. That was the first time I felt it, that drop in your stomach when you realize something is off but your brain hasn't caught up yet. I closed the blinds and tried to shake it off. Maybe he was zoning out. Maybe he didn't even realize he was looking directly at me. That happens, right? I didn't sleep well that night. After that, I started noticing him more. Always at the window. Always when I was home, I'd get back from class, set my backpack down, glance out the window, and there he'd be. Standing in the exact same spot, no phone, no expression. Watching. It started messing with my head. I tried keeping my blinds shut, but I hate living in the dark. I like natural light during the day, and having everything closed made my apartment feel like a cave. Still, I kept them drawn more often than not. When I did leave them open, I'd catch glimpses of him, quick flicks of movement behind his glass, like he was waiting for me to slip up. It wasn't long before I started hearing things too. At first, it was small stuff. A knock at the door when no one was there. Footsteps in the hallway late at night. Once I got home to find my doormat flipped upside down. I assumed it was kids. Maybe someone bored. Then I started getting texts, random numbers, always vague. You looked tired today. Why don't you smile more? Red's a good color on you. I blocked every number, reported them to my provider, but new ones kept popping up. Different area codes, same tone. I told myself it was some sick prank, maybe someone from campus messing around. But deep down, I knew it was him. I tried to be logical. I had no proof. He'd never spoken to me, never touched me, never even left his balcony, as far as I knew. But that didn't matter.
because the feeling wouldn't go away. That growing sense that I was being watched, constantly, like I was a character in a show he never turned off. I told the building manager. She was sympathetic, but said unless I had evidence of harassment, there wasn't much she could do. I asked who lived in 3B, but she said she wasn't allowed to share tenant info. Privacy laws. So I did what any paranoid, exhausted grad student would do. I bought a cheap camera and stuck it on my windowsill, not to point into his apartment, that would have been illegal, but aimed just enough to capture my balcony and anyone walking past. I left it running for 3 nights straight. On the 4th morning, I reviewed the footage. The first 2 nights were empty, just shadows from passing cars, wind blowing the blinds, but night 3.
Around 2:17 a.m., I saw movement. A figure creeping along the hallway outside my apartment. The camera didn't catch his face, but I saw the hoodie. The same gray sweatpants. He stopped at my door and just stood there, not knocking, not moving, just standing for nearly 6 minutes. Then he reached out and touched the doorknob, gave it a slow turn. It was locked. He stepped back, waited a moment, then walked out of frame. I felt my entire body go cold. I took the footage to the building manager, who finally agreed to investigate. She confirmed that apartment 3B was leased to a man named Jeremy. No prior complaints, lived alone, no criminal record. But she promised to follow up with him directly and notify security. I didn't see him for a few days after that. His window stayed dark, his balcony empty. Then the power in my unit went out. It was the middle of the night. I was up late writing, and everything just shut off. My laptop battery died, the fridge went silent, and the hallway lights outside my unit flickered off one by one. At first, I thought it was a blackout, until I looked across the courtyard. Every other window was still lit, just mine, completely dark. Then I heard it. A soft knock, not at my front door, at the sliding glass door that led to my balcony. I froze. My apartment was pitch black. My phone was dead. I hadn't even realized the balcony door was unlocked. I'd cracked it earlier to let in some air. The knock came again, louder. I crouched behind the couch and waited, listening. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it was shaking my ribs. Then I heard the click of the door handle turning. I bolted, ran through the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could find, and ducked into the bathroom, slamming the door and locking it behind me. I stayed there for what felt like hours, listening, waiting. I never heard footsteps, never heard the door open. Just silence. Eventually, the power came back on with a loud hum. I stepped out, shaking, knife still in hand. The balcony door was locked from the inside, which didn't make sense unless he'd already been in. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I packed up and moved in with a classmate across town. I didn't even give notice. Just left, let the lease lapse, and ghosted the building. A week later, I got one final text from another unknown number. "You were prettier when you weren't scared." I blocked it. Changed my number the next day. It's been 2 years. I'm in a new city now, different building, higher floor. I keep my blinds closed at night. I check my locks twice before bed. I don't talk to my neighbors, and I never look across the courtyard. I live in a quiet part of town, the kind of suburb where the biggest excitement most days is a kid learning to ride a bike or someone finally fixing their fence. I've lived here for about 4 years now. I work from home, freelance tech support, and live with my dog Harper, a 5-year-old black lab who basically runs my life. Every morning, like clockwork, I'd take Harper to the dog park at the edge of the neighborhood. It wasn't anything special, just a fenced-in field with 2 benches and a couple of poop bag dispensers. but it was routine, comforting even. I'd grab coffee on the way, Harper would chase her tennis ball for 45 minutes, and I'd start my day feeling like I'd done at least one productive thing. The people at the park rotated constantly. Sometimes it was regulars, a couple of older ladies with tiny yappy dogs, or parents letting their kids burn energy with their golden retrievers. Other times it was strangers just passing through, but we all stuck to ourselves mostly until I met him. It was a Monday morning, cold enough that my breath fogged in the air. I got there a little later than usual, 8:15-ish, and there was just one guy already inside the gate. He had a huge German shepherd, lean and alert, the kind that looks more military than pet. The guy was tall, thin, maybe late 40s, sunglasses, a dark hoodie, gloves. Something about him seemed stiff. But when I stepped inside, he looked over and gave me a polite nod. Didn't say anything. Just kept watching his dog pace in a tight circle by the fence. I let Harper off her leash and gave her the ball. She took off instantly, loving the space. The guy's dog didn't interact with her, just circled. The guy didn't interact with me either, not once. I shrugged it off. Some people just want space. No big deal. The next day, he was there again. Same time, same clothes, same silent nod. And the day after that, and the next. Always standing in the same corner. Dog never played, just paced, never even barked. Just kept its eyes on Harper like it was tracking her. By the 5th day, I was a little weirded out. I tried making small talk, asked what his dog's name was. He didn't answer at first, just turned his head slightly and said, "Ace." No smile, no return question, just that. I let it go, but I stopped staying as long at the park. The following Monday, I tried switching it up, went earlier than usual. Park was empty. I tossed the ball with Harper for a solid 20 minutes, enjoying the rare peace. Then I saw him. He was outside the gate, standing by the trees. Just watching. No dog with him this time, just him. We made eye contact, and I swear he didn't blink. He didn't come in. Just stood there until Harper and I left. That night, I couldn't shake it. I told myself it was nothing. Coincidence. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe I was reading into it too much, but then I started seeing him other places. At the grocery store, 3 aisles over, not shopping, just walking. At the gas station, sitting in a parked car 2 spots away, not pumping gas, always alone, always watching. I didn't tell anyone yet, mostly because I didn't have anyone close enough to confide in. I'm not married. No siblings in town. I called my mom once a week, but what was I gonna say? "Hey Mom, I think this dude from the dog park is following me." So I did what I usually do when I'm spiraling. I kept it all in my head. A few days later, I was walking Harper after dinner. Sun had already gone down and most houses were dark. Our neighborhood's quiet, very little foot traffic, and the dog loves her night walks. We were about halfway around the block when I saw someone across the street, tall, wearing a hoodie, standing still. Harper stopped too. She stared across the street, ears perked, body stiff. Didn't bark, just stared. The figure didn't move. I tried to act calm, pulled Harper's leash, crossed the street in the opposite direction, and walked faster. By the time I looked back, he was gone. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning I found something in my mailbox, no postage, just a folded sheet of paper. On it, printed in bold black letters, "You should watch your dog more carefully." That was it. No name, no return address. I immediately called the police, filed a report. They were polite, asked if I'd seen anyone suspicious. I told them about the man from the park. They said they'd do a drive-by patrol and check if anyone matched the description. They also said without a direct threat, there wasn't much else they could do. It felt like a joke. I stopped going to the dog park, started taking Harper out only during the day, in crowded areas. I looked over my shoulder constantly, checked every car that parked on my street. And for a little while, it worked. A few days passed, then a week, then 10 days. No sign of him. Then Harper got sick. Started throwing up, refused her food, wouldn't move from her bed. I rushed her to the vet. They ran tests and asked if she could have gotten into anything. Rat poison, antifreeze, anything like that. I said no, of course not. I was always careful. I barely even used cleaner around the house. The vet looked at me and said, "Well, she didn't get it here." It hit me all at once. Someone had fed her something. I lost it. Told the vet everything. They didn't know what to say other than they'd keep her overnight and try to flush her system. I barely slept. That night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to Harper barking. I jolted up, completely confused, then remembered she was still at the vet. I stood in the middle of my living room, half asleep and freaked out, and that's when I saw the shadow move across my front window. I dropped to the floor, crawled behind the couch, heart racing. My porch light wasn't on. I couldn't see a face. But I saw the outline, the same tall frame, same hoodie, just standing at my front door. Not knocking, just there. I called 911, whispered every word. The dispatcher told me to stay hidden. Officers were already en route. The figure didn't move, didn't try to come in, just waited. By the time I heard the sirens, he was gone. They found footprints in the front yard, large men's boots, traced around the side of the house, then disappeared at the sidewalk. No prints in the backyard, nothing missing, no broken locks. But the cops finally took me seriously. They reviewed camera footage from neighbors. Someone caught him walking away, face mostly covered. Still couldn't ID him. I showed them the dog park security feed I'd pulled from earlier weeks, and sure enough, there he was. Clear as day, watching me from across the field. Same hoodie, same blank stare. They opened an official case, told me to stay vigilant. I installed cameras around the house, changed my locks, slept with a bat next to the bed. Harper pulled through, thank God. She's healthy now, back to normal. But I'm not. Because sometimes I still get that feeling. Like someone's watching me. Like someone's just out of sight. And last week, another note showed up. No envelope. No return address. Just 4 words. Why'd you stop coming? I used to live in a basement apartment during my senior year of college. It wasn't glamorous, but the rent was dirt cheap, and it was close to campus, which was all I cared about. The unit was tucked beneath a crumbling old house a few blocks from the main strip. Barely any sunlight made it through the narrow windows, and the front entrance looked more like a cellar door than an apartment. But I was 22, broke, and just trying to graduate. It was a 1-bedroom with a weird layout. The kitchen was wedged into a corner like an afterthought, and the bedroom had this awkward bump in the wall, like a big rectangular column had just been built right into the room for no reason. I figured it was some kind of support beam or leftover from a renovation. Ugly, sure, but not something I planned to obsess over. Until I did. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. I was juggling classes, a part-time job at a bookstore, and a thesis I didn't even want to write. I spent most nights studying or watching horror movies to unwind. The building was old, and I expected weird noises, pipes clanking, the occasional shuffle of footsteps from the tenants upstairs. But then the wall started making noise. It began as a soft tapping, almost like fingers drumming lightly on wood. Just tap, 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 always in threes, always from that same bump in the wall. At first, I assumed it was the plumbing, or maybe even mice. Old building, after all. I told myself not to overthink it, but it never happened during the day. Only at night. Always after midnight. One night, I paused my movie and just sat in the dark, listening. It was just past 2 a.m. and the apartment was dead silent until I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Then a low scrape. Not loud. More like something dragging inside the wall, something with nails. I turned on every light in the apartment that night and slept with headphones in. The dreams started not long after. Each one was the same. I'd be lying in my bed, paralyzed, unable to move. Something would be watching me from the corner, right where the wall bulged. I couldn't see a face, just a tall black silhouette. No eyes, no mouth, just staring. Every time I woke up from those dreams, I'd be drenched in sweat and breathing hard. Once I woke up to find that I'd turned in my sleep and was facing the wall bump. It felt like my subconscious was trying to draw my attention to it. One night, I decided to record myself while I slept. Just to prove to myself it was in my head. I set my phone on the nightstand and let it run. In the morning, I listened to the audio. 8 hours of static and soft breathing until 3:42 a.m. A low creaking sound. Then a breath. Close to the mic, not mine. It was deeper, throatier, like someone else had leaned over my bed and just breathed. I nearly dropped my phone. I deleted the recording and told myself it was some kind of glitch, maybe interference. I went to class, acted normal, but when I got home that night, I found the closet door open. I never leave it open. I'm the kind of person who can't sleep unless all the doors are closed. Closet, bathroom, front door, double locked, always. Inside the wall next to the closet was scratched. Deep, uneven gouges, like someone had taken a key or a nail and raked it down the drywall. I didn't sleep there that night. I packed a bag and stayed on my friend Emma's couch. I didn't explain everything, just said the place felt off and I needed a break. She offered to let me stay the week, no questions asked. When I finally went back, it was daytime. I figured the light would make it feel less creepy. I walked in, and everything looked normal, until I noticed the edge of the wall bump. There was a seam, not part of the drywall, more like a panel, a square section that didn't quite match the rest. It had faint nail marks along the edges like it had been pried open before. My stomach dropped. I grabbed a flashlight and wedged a screwdriver into the seam. It resisted at first, but then popped open with a soft crack. Behind it was a shallow crawl space, about 2 feet deep, lined with crumbling insulation and dust-covered beams, and something else, a stained blanket, empty water bottles, a small candle burned almost to the base, a plastic fork, a wadded-up pair of socks. Someone had been living inside my wall. I stood there, flashlight trembling in my hand, unable to process what I was seeing. Then I saw the scratches on the inside of the panel, deep ones, more desperate, like someone had clawed at it from inside. I slammed the panel shut, backed out of the room, and left again. This time, I went to the police. They sent an officer and a detective. I showed them everything, the panel, the space, the items inside. They were polite, but I could tell they didn't think it was serious. Probably thought I was another college kid with too much caffeine and too many horror movies. They bagged the items and told me they'd look into it. I never heard back. I moved out 2 days later, broke the lease, lost my deposit. Didn't care. I just wanted to be somewhere with windows. A month went by. I found a new place on the 3rd floor of a modern building. Bright, clean, quiet. I started sleeping again. Then I got the text. It was from a number I didn't recognize. You shouldn't have opened it. That's all it said. I blocked the number instantly. I didn't tell anyone. What was I supposed to say? That I thought a person had been living in my wall and now they had my number? Weeks passed. No follow-up texts, no sightings. But I stopped sleeping again because sometimes, late at night, when everything's still, I swear I can hear it, just beneath the drywall. Tap, tap, scrape. And when I do, I don't check. I don't move. I just lay still and pretend I'm not there, because I don't know who or what was in that wall. And I'm afraid if I look again, they'll be closer.